Hey everybody, got a new webcam, so it's going to be a little easier to show up in some of these videos. I know some of you probably saw my channel post. I am working on a Silent Hill video because I've got a horror games video coming up where I'm going to be talking to some game developers who I'm really excited to talk to. But this was kind of breaking news that happened in the last day that I want to talk about because I'm a big Bionicle fan, and I haven't made a video on Bionicle in a very, very long time. There might be one or two on this channel from years ago. But growing up for me, like, this was a big part of what LEGO was. In fact, I still even have some of my Bionicles I can show throughout the video. I don't know if anyone will care, but this was one of the very first Bionicle sets ever released. It's Toa Liwa. So, I'm a real fan, alright? I'm not a fake. And there was a fan game, because you have to understand the reason this matters is Bionicle has not been touched in basically a decade by LEGO. It is a defunct brand, it is dead. They do nothing with it. They don't make comics, they don't make toys, they don't make anything. It's dead. And this fan game was in the works for 8 years. This fan game, Bionicle Masks of Power. And you're gonna see here when I kind of move my webcam, if you actually look at what's going on with the way that people are responding to this, I will move myself over here actually, the power of technology. They canceled this. After 8 years, this project was canceled. And yet, look at this. Look at how people are responding to it. Like, it basically is just making them look like dicks. So basically, there was a blog post confirming that Bionicle Masks of Power has been canceled. And its developers, Team Konoe, they had said that they had been contacted by the LEGO Group and told to shut down the project in its entirety and to remove the game from the public eye. How douchey is this, by the way? This was 8 years of development, and LEGO knew about it, okay? I know that that's going to be like a big statement. I will say allegedly. I'm sure they knew about it, though, because this was kind of everywhere. Like, the fact that there was this dead brand, this dead toy brand. Again, big fan. I showed you one of the first ones that came out. This was one of the final ones, like in the final line. This is Matanui. It's one of my favorites. These were made for a very long time, and they were very, very detailed toys. And I always thought they were extremely fun. And yet, Bionicle has not been touched by LEGO in basically a decade, since I believe 2016. And this is the return, is them basically DMCAing fans who wanted to make a game, and everybody's talking about it. Like, everybody is talking about this. So we're going to take a look at this for a few minutes today, because I personally think this is a terrible look for LEGO. And I think that, for me, when I talk about things on my channel, I want to highlight a couple of things. It's always stuff I care about, so I know it's kind of a weird variety, but also for me, I try to show when companies do right by their fans, right? Because that's what I think all of this art stuff is about. If you actually look into like the stuff that I like most of it, I would argue, is things that I don't feel like the customer base and the people who are actually funding it with their money are ignored on. They're actually taken into account, right? I don't buy things for full price when that's not the case. I'm not saying I necessarily sail the high seas, although who knows? But I will say that, like, for me, if you're a game studio or you're a company or whatever that is treating people this way, what this does is this tells me not to buy your thing. Because this was everywhere. You have to understand that this was publicized widely for multiple years. In fact, years ago, it was made known publicly that they were working on this game, and LEGO said nothing about it. And I've seen this happen over and over and over again, where a company will wait. They will wait, and it has to be malicious. There is no way it's not. They will wait until it's like a week before the thing's going to come out, and then they cancel it. And then they shut it down. And that's exactly what happened here. 8 years. 8 years of work down the toilet. Now, this team has already been able to pivot, and they're going to make a different game. They're going to make their own thing. But I'm beyond pissed about this. And I would encourage anyone who is to not let LEGO hide it from the public eye. Talk about it. Show it. You know, actually make it known. Because this is fair use to actually talk about these things. And it is commentary, and it is legally protected in the United States to show that this fan project existed. They need to understand what bad will does. I understand they're going to have a built-in fan base that buys from them no matter what. But like the same way that we reward companies like with goodwill, when they do something good, we say, hey, I want to buy from you again. We need to not let the companies like Lego forget when they do stuff like this. So I do have a question of the day for you, which is twofold. I always like to hear these. So first off, what is your favorite fan game that has ever been made of anything? Because I want to know, because I want a list of recommendations. Anything you think I'd like or anything you like. And also, is there a project like this that you've been waiting years for that got shut down that really pissed you off? Because for me, this is definitely it. Now, here's the thing with this. It is possible that this could be leaked and it could actually come out in some form by some disgruntled person who worked on it. If that happens, I would be very happy, but I doubt it would happen for a while because you would need plausible deniability. You know, you couldn't have it be like, we shut it down. Nah, man, here's the finger, we released it, because then you could face legal repercussions. But I have never understood personally why IP protection works with free fan games. You know, I've never understood that. And the companies that allow these things usually look like the best. They look like the good guys. Even thinking of like Sega. Sega had a run there with Sonic games where they were not impressing anybody. Everybody was kind of pissed with them. Everybody was like, this is not for me. And that's the era of Sonic I grew up in, actually, like Shadow the Hedgehog on the PS2. I enjoy that stuff. But a lot of people were like, ugh, what happened to Sonic, man? Also, because I'm poor and my medical insurance doesn't cover anti-glare, you get to be cyclopsed when I turn. So sorry about that. Jill's in the background. But, you know, I think that companies like Sega look the best because they allow stuff like this. They're like, oh, you want to make a Sonic game? Yeah, go for it. Just don't charge anything, you know? And for me, I'd take it a step further. Like, I personally think, like, this is me, the copyright laws do not agree with me, and that's fine. I personally think that if you're an artist and you're putting time into something, like the same way that we see artists make like pictures of Zelda in a bikini and then they sell a print of it, I personally think like if you made a fan game, you actually should be able to sell it. I know nobody else agrees with that because the copyright system's against that. That's just my personal opinion. Or if you make a mod, like let's say you make tons of mods for The Sims and you want to open a Patreon, I have no problem with that. But legally, there is a problem with that. Now that said, why does it legally cover fan-made free things? You know, like why is that a problem? And for me, this is literally just like on Jill's channel, on Magical Jill. We talked recently a couple times about Pokemon and Pal World. This to me reminds me so much of that, where it's like, hey guys, yeah, we're still here with the same brand after all these years. We're not really changing much. You know, we're Pokemon. Hey, wait a minute, that guy's changing things. That guy's competing. Stop that man. You know, that's what this reminds me of. Is like, we are releasing nothing for Bionicle. We've ignored it for a decade. I actually looked it up. The last set came out, I believe, in 2016, and then there was one promotional set that was like a, if you buy so much, you get this as a gift with your Lego.com purchase, of a Lego set based off of Bionicle. It wasn't even Bionicle. It was actually based off of this character, Tahu, and it was essentially like a set where it was made out of Lego pieces, but it was recreating this character, you know? So that was like the last thing, and I think that was in 2023. But before then, they had stopped in like 2016, done nothing, to 2023. Then they released one set based off this guy that was actually just a normal Lego set and nothing else. And the last video game I remember, I actually have it. It was on the Xbox 360. It was Bionicle Heroes. And it was a fine game. I think it's fun for what it is. But in general, like, they never really explored this very rich and unique world. And this is actually a world that's very interesting. You know, a lot of toys, it's kind of like, yeah, okay, it's a toy brand, whatever. It's there to sell toys. Bionicle had chapter books that had tons of lore in them. It had character guides. It had video games like on the Game Boy Advance. It had fan, games that people had worked on. It had things like this, like that someone was, like a group was working on. And the Steam page has had to be replaced even. You know, and they said this is heartbreaking news for our entire team, but we're also incredibly excited about what the future has in store and for what we'll get the chance to create next. They're nicer than me, man. My whole statement would have been like, F Lego. Like, I'm never buying anything from them again. If I worked on something for 8 years because I was a fan and you shut it down, dude, like, I can't tell you how angry I would be. I'm angry about it and I'm on the outside of it. They basically said, essentially, from the bottom of our hearts, we would like to extend a heartfelt thank you to everyone who supported us over the long journey of where we are today. And then it said, we've grown from just a couple of Bionicle fans trying to make the type of game we wished we had as kids. Keep that in mind, like, that's why they made this. Into a fully fledged independent game studio. And the only reason we've been able to grow this much is through all your support and love. Thank you. This was very nice of them. PC Games News or whatever, they reached out to Lego. Lego didn't respond to them. Who knows? Maybe this is some overzealous douchebag lawyer. Maybe it is like, oh, finally Lego's planning to do something so they don't want to compete. I don't know. But in general, to me, this is unacceptable. 8 years. And you knew that this was coming out, because there's no, I just don't see a way that you could have plausibly not known about it, okay? I haven't been following Bionicle in years. I have a few behind my desk, like I said, and I showed a few off. In fact, real quick here, because this is the one video I probably ever get to make talking about this, because it's such a niche thing now. Here is the, I believe it was McDonald's exclusive Lego Bionicle that I have. I think his name was Jala. It's hard to remember, but I'm pretty sure this was Jala. Anyway, he was one of the Matoran. See? Still got some of it up there. This was such a fascinating world. This group was making this game because it's the kind of game they wanted as kids to exist. They were clearly making this game not to make money. They couldn't sell it. They were clearly not making this game for some kind of weird glory. Bionicle is a niche brand. A lot of people have forgotten about it. I'm sure this video might not even do well because it's like, a lot of people I ask, like, hey, do you know what Bionicle is? They're like, huh? They have no idea. And yet, this is how they're treated. This is how they're treated for caring. And this is how they're treated for putting this time in. And I know there'll be some company shill who's like, well, you shouldn't have made a fan game because they can shut that down anytime. And then they start licking the boots of Lego. But like, I don't understand why copyright protects this. I think IP law in general needs to be severely gutted and redone. You know, it would be one thing if you like sold a Lego set and then I came in and printed it, you know, with slave labor and sold it for a third of the cost and, you know, and made money off you. Fine, I understand there's a point to some of this, but a lot of it is just used to beat and bash fans over the head who care more about your thing than you do. Because to them, it's not a business. To them, it's like, this is something I grew up with as a kid. You know, like, I collected these toys. These characters mattered to me. They were fascinating to me. I enjoyed these things. To a lot of people, these toys are this world. It's not just some dumb business. It's something they actually care about. And I would argue those are the kinds of people that should be in charge of it, not some douchebag corporatism pushing group of people who are willing to shut down 8 years worth of work from people who were not going to make any money off of this just because they could. You know, screw you, man. That's just like the worst possible. That's the worst possible way to treat people who actually cared about your stuff. They did release a 2-hour playthrough of the demo, which thank God they did. I do want to make a rejected media on this actually in the future, if you'd be interested in watching this again, like breaking down what this was. I'm mad though, man. I couldn't actually do, I couldn't do a rejected media on this like today. I'm like RFKing now because I'm mad. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, you want to leave a like, subscribe, I appreciate it. We do have new products up on CosmoBunny.shop. Speaking of fair use, taking art pieces, you know, like that have been damaged, like comics, manga, magazines, and more, turning them into something new transformatively for your home and recycling the rest. Discount code DJAY123 gets you 10% off your first purchase there. I'd like to do a rejected media on this. Let me know if you're interested. I don't know. I couldn't have made a rejected media on this today because I would have been really, really pissed, and I would not have been able to cover it in a competent way. But shout out to Team Kanohi. They are now Unmasked Games. Looks like the gamer made a mistake here. They called them Unmaked Games. They're now Unmasked Games. They spent a lot of time on this. They really didn't deserve this. And I hate this stuff so much. This stuff has made me hate modern companies. And I'm not kidding when I say I spend less and less money on like unused new inbox stuff every year. Whether it's video games, toys, anything. I spend less money on it. If I buy this stuff, it's almost always used. Because I don't want to give these companies my money anymore. I'm just sick of them. But have a fantastic day. As always, everyone, stay shui.